I was talking to Brad Biggs from the Tribune today, and he had thought that a lot of the incompletions that Caleb threw, a lot of the reasons were because the field was so condensed because they were working on red zone. That it was hard for him because he's new and he's learning a new offense, and because it was red zone, and so you're squeezing the football in
Right.
such a small area of the field as well. So that way he thought made it even extra hard.
And today was different. 7-on-7s. They were. He was 13 and 15 and 7-on-7s. It was like a playground. It was like a playground for him. He had a big open field. He was able to just go through the playbook. He looked good. He threw the ball really well, throwing some darts at guys. He looked very efficient.
Like what I was talking to Meller about, and again, like there's going to be, and I've cautioned myself now more not to get too high or too low, but the way he just looks the part, Cap has talked a lot about this too on the morning show, that he can take something off the throw and fit the ball in with touch over a level of defenders and drop it in downfield. Not everything is a fastball.
Yes.
And like he was able to just fit them into the field. There was I wrote down a couple of plays. He threw a beautiful deep ball to one of his best friends, John Jackson, who is here on a undrafted free agent contract. He threw a deep ball to Roma Dunze that was a little underthrown that he had him try to come back for. That got a pass interference call from the referees. It was Hicks and Terrell Smith on the defense there. The best ball of the day, one of the best balls of the day, he connected in 7-on-7 on a deep ball to DJ Moore.
Oh, yeah.
For a touchdown against Hicks. Those were some of the plays. There was a sideline ball that he threw that was a beauty to Roma Dunze. Like Roma Dunze today, he was not practicing last week. Just looks the part, the way he is able to get his feet in bounds along the sidelines, the way he's able to make contested catches. And so they were working together. But, I just can't get over that when guys come in and guys come out, one guy decides not to show up today who was here last week, or a guy wasn't here the last 2 weeks. Each and every week, as Waddle and I put it last week, there's DJ Moore. DJ Moore is here each and every week. And DJ Moore, again, with Caleb Williams this week. Last week, DJ Moore was barely catching anything because they weren't able to hook up with anything. Today, DJ Moore, in 11-on-11, in 7-on-7, they were connecting. And it was a joy to see. So
I think that it's important to point out what the coaches are looking for as well. So to watch from the sidelines, it's one thing to see how he's throwing the ball, see how the receivers are catching the ball, see what kind of separation they're getting, what kind of body control they have, things like that. I think it's also important that the coaches know that the trajectory is not a straight line up, that it is going to be up and down. It is going to be up and down. And for various reasons. It's going to be up today. There were no first-team defensive backs on the field today. It was down last week. There was no first-team offensive lineman on the field last week, maybe one or two.
Yeah, there were a few, but no Darnell Wright and no Nate Davis.
There's reasons why the trajectory is up and down, as long as it doesn't fall all the way down and stay down and then peak up. You're going to see a slow rise. And that's because these are mini camps. These are no Keenan Allen, no Montez Sweat, no Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, and Kevin Byard. So it's until they actually put the pads on and you can really see some football action, then we'll have a better idea. But yeah, he looked good today. He looked the part.
And those guys that you mentioned in the secondary, that's the best part of their football team.
Right.
That is their strength of their football team. Brisker, Gordon, Johnson, those are, you could argue, when you get Montez Sweat on the field, those are probably their 4 most impactful players on the entire team,
Right.
other than what you hope Caleb Williams, Keenan Allen, and DJ Moore are. Meller, what did you see that caught your eye?
So one thing you just said there, which I love that we're at this place, because you said the best unit, the secondary, wasn't for the most part present aside from Tyreek Stevenson. And my first thought was, oh, wait a minute, the wide receiver room, in my opinion, and I think most people, we can debate the best unit on the Bears, and not like this being, not something to get excited about. Both units are beyond respectable. They could be considered the best units in the league with the receiving core and the secondary. Love that the Bears are at that point right now in their buildup, which is awesome. Caleb Williams, you mentioned it already, like night and day difference between what we saw last week. I'm sure a lot of it, to your point, Brad Biggs pointing out that, it being red zone last week, a condensed area. That's the hardest part for not just a rookie quarterback, but any NFL quarterback to succeed. Oftentimes, you'll see the difference between the best quarterbacks in the league is that they, when they get into the red zone, know how to manipulate the defense and work with the smaller field. That's what really separates the best from, the average starters in the league. So if you think about it in that aspect, it shouldn't be surprising that last week what we saw from Caleb was not what we saw today. He was making not just, I think he was 13 for 14 if you account for that PI that Rome drew. So he was 13 for 14 today, including that layered throw that you mentioned to John Jackson was beautiful. I know the touchdown throw to DJ Moore in 7-on-7 was something we got excited about, and it was a good throw. But that's where he trusted DJ Moore to go make a play, and DJ Moore absolutely did. I thought that throw to John Jackson was the best throw of the day. That really got me excited.
Between two defenders, there was one short and one long, and he just touched it over and the guy short and in between the safety who was deep.
and the short defender made a play on the ball where he jumped up pretty high. Got some good elevation. I thought he was going to deflect it, and then just kept going right over him and then dropped right into John Jackson's hands. So that's something where you're like, okay, you can see it now where there's so much arm talent, and the touch that Caleb Williams brings to the table gets me really excited as a Bears.
And honestly, like I'm not giving you hyperbole here, but in the couple of years that I've been coming and when Justin's been the quarterback, that's a throw Justin Fields could not make. That's a throw Justin Fields would not try to make. That's a big difference between the two. Justin Fields had great arm strength. He could throw a ball deep, and he can throw a ball, sometimes he would not try to fit it, but he could. But that layered throw, he couldn't and wouldn't. And this guy is just different in that regard.
It was one of the things that Ryan Poles talked about at, I believe, in Indianapolis, and he talked about the difference with Caleb Williams is you could see like a J.J. McCarthy just throwing the ball harder and harder and harder. Rex Grossman used to be like that. Just throw the ball as hard as you possibly can. Caleb has different speeds to his throws. And if you pick up on that and you watch when he makes those adjustments, that's what sets him apart from some of these other guys. When you don't know what to look at, those are one of the things you should look at, because a typical rookie just thinks they have to throw it harder and harder to thread the needle. And sometimes that's not how you thread the needle. Sometimes you thread it very lightly.
Yep. And then you were telling us who wasn't here. You mentioned all the secondary people, Peggy. You mentioned Keenan Allen. No Montez Sweat. They were pressed a lot today, Coach Eberflus, about Montez Sweat. Like, has he not been here? He says he's been in the building. I continue to find this interesting. Like I'm a benefit of the doubt guy. I give guys who perform the benefit of the doubt, and I give guys who I don't think have performed or aren't healthy the non-benefit of the doubt. Like Nate Davis, I'm worried about.
He was there.
He was there, but he wasn't participating.
No, he was working on the side with Karen Amagaji.
Yes. So what's wrong? And they don't discuss injuries. And again, I know it's OTAs. I know.
Well, not only that, but he's an older player. There's always something that's aching, and they're going to take it as very
Sure.
conservatively.
I know.
I know.
I
I know. You just want it to be
My red flag is up with him. You know what I mean? You pointed at me. Why'd you point at
No,
me?
because listen, of all the things we show up and look for today, and I knew it. I hadn't talked to Sylvie yet, but I stepped out to the practice field, and I knew it was going to be one of the first things we asked each other was, "Have you seen Nate Davis yet?"
Yeah.
And listen, he may go out there this season play, and it'll be a non-factor.
And I would love that.
Absolutely. But all last year, and I don't think it helps because of the whole weird way the Bears handled it last year, where he was missing, and I know he had a sickness in his family, and then he went to the podium and didn't. And remember that whole weird exchange with the media where he didn't want to talk about anything. Again, this goes back to New Bears era. Hard knocks, you're the team. Just be more forthright.
Right.
No one's trying for these gotcha moments.
Right.
Well, and then the people who worked in Tennessee, also the broadcasters, have told people that in Tennessee they were excited to get rid of him because he never was an all-in guy. And what do the Bears always say? They want their best players to be their hardest workers. My fear is, and again, I'm not writing him off. I want to see him bounce back. There was one publication that said, I forgot what it was, someone just read it, that their biggest bounce back player could be Nate Davis this year. But Peggy, what is the Bears' biggest weakness? And I think we would both circle the offensive line and defensive line. Where could it go wrong this year?
I think it's more the defensive line.
Okay.
I think that they're relying a lot on Javon Dexter Jr. I think that they're relying a lot on Zach Pickens. I think that Zach Pickens is a guy at South Carolina that never lived up to his hype. He was, I think, a 5-star recruit, and he never lived up to his hype. And now they are really looking at those two guys. That's why they didn't go and get anyone inside. I don't know who the other pass rusher,
Right.
DeMarcus Walker,
They don't have
Dom
one.
Robb.
Right.
I mean, he's been an experiment for the last couple of years.
No, you can't do that.
You're
right.
I think the defensive line I worry more about because I feel like I've seen DeMarcus Walker's a nice player.
Right.
But I want a stud. I want two studs rushing the passer.
Sure. And I don't blame you for that. And I think you bring up great points. I want to see Braxton Jones do well. I want to know that he can be the left tackle. I want to see what Tevin Jenkins can do at left guard. Can he stay healthy? I want to see what the situation at center is going to be. Then Nate Davis, what's he going to be with Darnell Wright?
Yeah.
Did I flip the guards around?
No, you're.
Tevin Jenkins at the left guard.
Yeah.
Was not practicing today. I did not see him. Did you?
I did.
He
was in there. I saw him doing drills.
He didn't do 11 on 11,
Right.
but he was working in drills.
He did drills.
And Nate Davis just didn't do anything.
And I will say, in the 11 on 11, I thought it was interesting that Coleman Shelton was the first team center today.
Right.
Ryan Bates, ran with the second unit.
But Matt Eberflus was asked about that, and he said we are just rotating that.
Yeah.
Everything's a competition.
Which, and I understand that. I was last week. We saw Bates as the first team center, and that's perfectly fine. I think it's interesting though that they don't have necessarily a guy who they have deemed the first team center just yet. For what it's worth, because we know that Ryan Poles likes Ryan Bates. He clearly has gone after him a couple of times. He traded for him. And Coleman Shelton knows Shane Waldron's system going back to their days together with the Rams, right? So it'll be interesting to see what they deem most valuable.
Don't you think that there's probably they have who they want to take that job?
Sure.
And they're just going to say it's a competition right now. That offensive line, boy, they shuffled so much last year that these guys, they all need reps. So I don't worry so much right now as to who's taking first team reps at all. They all need the reps.